Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Welcome back to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with your hosts, Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. Our guest today is the CEO behind Metal, Will Henshaw. Will, thank you so much for joining us. We are really excited to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure. Great to meet you both.
Absolutely. So for our listeners who may not have heard anything about Metal, I was hoping you could backtrack just a little bit and talk to us about the group and who it's for and give us kind of a breakdown of what this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's nothing to do with metal. Nothing to do with aluminum, iron, steel, copper. Nope, nothing to do with that. It's an acronym and it stands for media, entertainment, technology, artists, and leaders. And we are a men's group. We've been going for 24 years in total. We started as an in-person group in Los Angeles in California, which is where I'm based. And this is a group of highly competent men and from many different backgrounds. Now, media, entertainment, technology, artists, and leaders, that's where we started back in the day. But now we have many other guys from many other professions. We have, guys who are physicians. We have obviously guys in tech, different kinds of tech, crypto, robotics, AI. So it's a really interesting broad group of guys. And the simple way of describing what Metal is, it is like an edgier version of TED for successful guys. And the question is always, why are you a guys group? Right? Good question. Why? And the answer is, we men need to be in the cave with other men on a regular basis. It makes us better husbands, better business partners, just makes us better guys. And the key is, who are you in the cave with? And the Metal men are intelligent, heart-centered. We come from many, many different backgrounds. And within the community, we get together both online. We have a big event on a Saturday morning, which is members only. And then we get together 4 times a year in person. And when you're in the company, I'm talking as a man myself, when you're in the company of other guys who are very successful in different fields than you are, you realize how much we got in common. You really do. And so it's like a version of, as I said, it's like a sort of an edgier version of TED for successful guys. That's what this is.
I love that. That is really interesting. And you guys so you mentioned that you do online meetings, I think on Saturdays, and then your next in-person event is coming up like next week, right? It'll be in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles on October the 19th. There's a good chance you're listening to this that will be back in October the 19th. But right. Yes, we do. We get together in person and it's, as I said, it's like a sort of a live TED event with speakers and inspiration, education,
And it looks like it's a lot of fun. There's some pictures on the website from different events that you guys have done. It looks like it's a lot of fun. And you guys are global. So you've got, it said members in 70 countries. So that's got to be really unique to bring together a group of men that are kind of leaders in all of these different, attorneys and guys in robotics and manufacturing and technology and music and just a lot of different, what types of things, I mean, I imagine the list is long, but what are kind of the benefits of getting to talk to all of these great minds from all of these different industries and these different fields?
That sounds like a perfect introduction to ask us about our book.
Great.
David Letterman was famous for having someone saying, tell me about your film, tell me about your book, right? Yes. Anyway, that's being serious. So the Metal structure is based on a research project that we've been doing over the last sort of 4 or 5 years. We did a deep dive survey, in-persons, focus groups with about 450 of our members to ask this question: what do successful guys? And by the way, successful is not only financial. There's different ways you can define successful. What do we have anything in common? Are we able to say these are the specific principles that all successful guys have? And from the data that we got, we found absolutely, yes, there are 8 specific principles that most successful men use to have their success. And I'm talking about, how does a physician get through medical school? How does a startup engineer become successful? How do you create, an exit? There's a lots of different ways you can manage that, right? And there are 8 of these principles, and we can talk about them if you like, but I'll quickly tell you what they are. The first one is curiosity. We are all curious. Everyone. We are not an ageist organization. We have a percentage of our guys are over 70. And in fact, when a guy's been in the community for a while, when they get to 70, they are grandfathered in. So we have some real wisdom of these old guys. And curiosity is a key thing. It's about, what is that? The next principle is creativity. So we're all creative. Like, we're curious about something, and we're like, I wonder how I could use that. And the third thing is resilience. We're all resilient. Get back on the horse. How do you, who was it that said you judge a man not in times of peace and prosperity, but in times of war and diversity, war anyway. And that is very true. You get to see how guys respond to stress and duress. That's an important thing. And then the next one after that is resilience. And so I've got creativity, resilience, and then we've got
integrity. I cheated. I'm looking on the website.
Thank you very much. Integrity. And the jet lag is still kicking my butt from just flying in. So yes, integrity, which is important for a man. It's important for all of us. But what is integrity? You realize after a while, when you've been in business a minute, that just means delivering on what you say you will. And if you can't, making sure people know. It means that you're a man of your word, right? The next one is, these might be out of order from on the website, but the next one is financial literacy. To be successful as a man, you got to understand the energy of money. You've got to understand how to make it, to keep it, to grow it, right? Professional development, always learning about what you're doing. Brotherhood, right? It's important to know that you need guys. You need brothers you can lean on. Your role in a family, typically as the breadwinner or one of the main breadwinners, as the responsible person keeping this together, you need to be able to have other guys you can talk to and rely on. And then the last one is having a work-life balance. How on earth do you manage that? It's a constant challenge as you have a family, you have kids, you have teenagers, you got to deal with soccer. There's all of this stuff to go. And at the same time, your career has likely got to a point where, guess what? You're expected to be more and more involved. And so how do you manage that? Particularly, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you and your audience about, which is we're at a really unique time. And what I mean by that is the tech revolution, AI and screen time, is ever increasing in speed. It is an accelerated rate of change. It is neck snapping. You look at the news today, and next week it's robots that can do this. And what's going to be happening? Where are we going in six months, right? At the same time, you need to slow down for your family. You need to put the phones away. You need to walk on the beach with your kids. You need to absolutely slow down. So we're in this sort of split between having one foot on a platform of a train that is ever increasingly fast. And on the other hand, you've got to stop and slow down and enjoy the meal. Look at the sunshine, look at the trees, hang out with your kids, listen, put your phone away. So,
and that, I feel like, is getting that life balance, and that idea is getting harder and harder, right? As we progress as a society, there's more of that pressure to be constantly available and constantly on your computer and constantly on your phone. And so it's just, really, Stu, what are your thoughts on everything?
Yeah, so I'm really curious about this. This is something I've thought a lot about myself, that there was a time in America, and I'm sure this was the case, in the UK too, way back before World War II, where families lived close together. They spent a lot of quality time together. But then, as the decades went by and people became more educated, got jobs, moved away, moved to Los Angeles, whatever, there's not the same physical connection. And now we have technology has come along. We had the internet and all the things that brought, and then much more recently, we're watching artificial intelligence
Yeah.
come into our lives at some incredibly rapid rate.
Yeah.
And all of those things, it seems intuitively to me, are having an impact on emotional stability, emotional resilience. But I think you've thought about this more than I have. And I'm really
Mm.
curious to get your observations on the impact of change and also the antidotes to that. That's a
You
big question.
just hit it. Yeah, you just hit a big nail on the head for me personally. In the 90s, I was a songwriter and a musician in a well-known band. The band was called London Beat, and we had 5 big hits, including I've Been Thinking About You, I've Been Thinking About You, which you will have heard, one of the most played songs in the world on the radio today from the 90s. London Beat, I've Been Thinking About You. And I was the guitarist and the white guy in the band and the founder of the band. And that taught me a lot about connection, taught me a lot about how do you reach people with particularly music, which is this international language. Right? The 3 international languages, this is a funny thing out of the UK. They say the 3 international languages are music, sex, and soccer. I just heard that while I was in the UK a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh yeah,
Seems true to
they have
me.
got, yeah, the international languages. So as you have just said, the challenge is that the particularly the handheld device, the phone, is increasingly driving our social interactions. It's driving our political actions. It is now the kind of the source of connection to your friends, to, if you are with a group of teenagers and they're all texting all the time, you ask them, what are you doing? They say, oh, we're just texting our other friends. We're talking to other people who are not here. Now, when we were a kid, if you're talking to someone who's not here, you got an imaginary friend, right? Now, what I predict myself, and we've talked about this a lot in the metal organization, is that there will be a renaissance, inevitably, of interest in human to human connection without the devices. And it's already starting to happen. There, you know, there are many schools now that have got data showing that when the kids do not have their phones, their grades increase dramatically, that, bullying reduces that, et cetera, et cetera. Music in particular is we're all wired to be part of it. You can't not respond. And so when kids are playing music together, it crosses divides. It crosses different economic backgrounds. It crosses racial backgrounds. It changes the way kids think about each other because they're singing harmony. They're in the marching band together. They're in a punk band. And so my prediction is that in the next 10 years, there will be more and more live interaction. I think there'll be more stand-up comedy. There'll be more theater. There'll be more barbershop quartets. I don't know, just, that interaction. There will be more improv. There'll be more of this thing that we are missing at the moment because of the phone being in the way. And I'm starting to see this. I'm really starting to see this. Talking to, the other metal men, we talk about, what are your kids doing? And there's a generation coming through who are realizing that putting the phone down and going hiking is actually more rewarding. It's more satisfying. It's more enjoyable than sitting at home on Instagram.
I agree with that. And we've seen that trend happening I would say I've seen that trend happening as well, both as a mother with my own children and then as a professional as well. You know, in the professional world, especially during COVID and all of that, you know, for the first couple of years after that, everything was virtual. Go-to was virtual, virtual
Yeah.
meetings, virtual groups,
Yeah.
virtual everything.
Yeah.
And just in the last couple of years, I've noticed the trend that now a lot of these groups, even ones that started completely virtual, companies that started completely virtual, now these groups are having, maybe they meet virtually, but they have a once a year, an annual get together in person. And then it becomes a quarterly get together in person. And so I have in the
Mhm.
professional world definitely seen that trend. And
Yeah.
then as a mom, I've definitely seen that trend as well. I have kids between ages 6 and 16, and the
Okay.
16-year-old grew up kind of for sure in that the virtual world. We play games online with our friends, we talk on the phone, all that. And just in the last, I would say probably year and a half, there's been this reemergence of things like Dungeons and Dragons and Pokemon and these in-person games.
Uh-huh.
Now they're all sitting around my dining room table
Right.
playing games in person, which we have not seen in really in his lifetime at all. It's always been video games. So it's interesting. This is an
Yeah.
interesting topic that you've brought up because I do see that
Yeah.
trend kind of emerging in both aspects of my life for sure.
That is so great to hear, and that completely mirrors what we're finding too. If you do a search on, YouTube in particular for young musicians, you can start to see hundreds, if not thousands, of incredibly talented young musicians. You don't get to be that good if you are not glued to an instrument, which means you're not playing a video game, right? It
Right, for
means
sure.
that you are there's a ton of dads who've got their garage, they've given it up to their like 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, and they're playing punk. They're playing the Ramones. These kids, the boys, their voice hasn't even broken yet. And they're like, it's just, it is vibrant and exciting and
Yeah. So,
built
Will,
into us. Yeah.
well, let me say too, one of the things that Katie and I spend a lot of time focusing on in the work we do is giving people tools, strategies, approaches for how to connect with where they came from. Because one
Yeah.
of the things that we've noticed now is with all this dispersion, you don't hang around with older generation family members. You don't really know about family history. That's really lost you. And it turns out that at some very deep human level, that matters. People actually
Yes.
want to know where they came from. I've
Yeah.
seen this incredible increase in the use of 23andMe technology,
Yeah.
ancestry.com. People want to have that's why my wife had the blood test done to find out where
Yeah.
she suspected she was British, but she wanted to have it confirmed, right? And so,
Sure. Sure.
so we're finding that there is this just insatiable need to find out where you came from and reconnect with that
Right.
in a way that I don't think I don't think it was that big a deal, several decades ago when you were hanging out with these people every day, but now you're
Right.
not.
Right. Yeah. There's something we discovered about 10 years ago. We were looking in metal about, we'd done some research on use of different social media systems. And, we were told that the kids are no longer on Facebook. They're now done, not on Facebook. Oh, that's not true. And the reason why is their grandparents are on Facebook. And so you want to talk to your grandma, she's on Facebook. And you love your grandma, so you're going to be on Facebook. You may not use Facebook for anything else, but that's where granny is. And my dad is the same. In fact, my dad, bless him, he's nearly 90, and he hasn't quite figured this out still after all these years. And so he types on his page to people. I'm like, Dad, these are private messages. Everybody can see. I mean, okay, they want to know about your garage and your house and the thing and the car and then this and then, the dog poops on the. I mean, great, but I just want you to know it's like having a phone call with a megaphone out to the world.
So, Will, before we run out of time, I saw something in your bio
Yeah.
that really jumped out at me. Something called Focus at Will Labs.
Yeah. Thank you.
What's that about?
Yeah. So I'm an 8 times entrepreneur, like many of the metal men. I've been, I've done all right a couple of times. I've lost my shirt more than a couple of times, and I can't help it. I sometimes at Metal, we're kind of joking about, we're like at an Entrepreneurs Anonymous meeting, you know. I'm Will, and I'm
Right.
I'm not going to start another company this week. Well, I might. I did look for a domain on GoDaddy. Yeah, that's true. So in about 2010, I got really interested in how music can be used to help you do things. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the way the world works, humans use music for things like weddings, funerals. It is part of the infrastructure of what we do. You go to the gym and there's workout music, right? There's music for things. And a friend of mine was a physician, and I said to him, "Did you listen to music when you were studying?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "What did you listen to?" And he said, "It was Chariots of Fire." Do you remember that song from the
Oh,
movie
sure. Yeah.
by
The movie. Yeah.
Vangelis years ago, right?
Yeah.
And he said, "I just used to listen to that one track over and over." That was it. Hang on, my dog's just come in. Come on, mate. Whoops, I'm on the phone. But that's one of the things I love about dogs is they have no sense of personal space or time in what you're doing. They don't care.
This is
Anyway,
one of the things I
so
love about dogs. Yeah.
yeah, one of the things I like about them. So I found out that this guy listened to that one track over and over and over. So then I was like, well, maybe there is such a thing as a track. Maybe there's a magic track. So then I got a few people together trying that track. No one else liked it, just him. I was like, that's weird. I mean, my buddy is a very successful physician, and this is what he listened to. Anyway, that led me down a path, realizing that there are many different types of brain types. And there is a psychological model called the Big Five. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's called the Ocean Score, which is to do with the way that you can measure how openness, conscientiousness, extrovertism, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And this is a model that can be measured by standardized tests. So winding forward to the end, we discovered that different people need different types of music to help them focus when they're working. And we found one thing in common with everyone, which is no vocals. If you're listening to a piece of music that has any kind of vocals in another language, you will pay attention to it. So no vocals, and everybody's different. And then winding forward a few more years, we discovered that the most valuable employees in most organizations are kind of ADD, kind of ADHD. These are your top developers, your top creatives, your top lawyers. They're a little weird. They're a little hyper. You know, these guys. And by the way, that describes most of my friends. Anyway, there's another
It
story.
describes me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So being ADD just means that you are easily distracted. And why? It means that you're not getting enough stimulation. So if you are ADD, you need to drink loads of coffee because it helps you focus. You might find that you have a game on one speaker, you have music on over here, you're doing something else, you've got the BBC on over here, you're checking your email, and that is how you can be your most effective. And we discovered the real sweet spot in Focus at Will is we figured out exactly what kind of music works for people with ADHD. And that's the basis of that business. We have, close to 40,000 people every day using the service who have ADD.
So you've monetized that knowledge, and you have some kind of a subscription.
Yep. It's $52 a year for the service. The service has an onboarding system. Anybody listening to this, you can find the app, Folks at Will, on the app stores. And particularly if you have ADD, ADHD, it's the same thing. This is very likely to help because the music is highly targeted to your brain type. There's a system that onboards you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I was saying yes for me, Stan, not yes for you. I was not.
Okay.
I was not saying you need that.
I know. Okay. I mean,
Just to be clear.
you know me. You know it's true.
ADD
Well,
folk, we're the fun people. We're the guys that, I say, by guys, I'm talking about people. We're the people that get stuff done.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I bet if you ran a test on all of the people in the Metal Brotherhood, I bet there's a pretty significant amount of those that would score somewhere in the ADHD realm for sure.
Yeah. In the general population, by the way, it's about 10% of the population have some distraction challenges. 5% are actually definable as ADHD, and many of them are on medication, which has been shown to help manage the focus on that. And yeah, in the metal group, we're probably like 50%.
Yes. Yes, and that's what makes it so fun, right, Will?
Yeah.
So, Will, I'm curious, I have all these questions. I'd like to spend a lot more time with you than we have here, but I'm curious, what do you see coming in the world? What trends do you see happening? You've talked about this trend of, of spending quality time together
Yeah.
without telephones. What other things do you see? Are there trends that concern you? Are there trends that excite you?
Right. Well, we have two golden rules in the metal community. The first one is we never talk politics, ever. And the second thing is we never talk about religion. And when new members come in, that's kind of weird. You're like, of course, it's especially in these times of partisan issues, blah, 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 that's going on now. It's difficult. But once you become a member of a community that we never talk about that, it is just not acceptable. Why is that a rule? Because we have found in the last 20 years, it always becomes, pardon my French, a shit show. It just is. It just always becomes partisan bickering and all kinds of, it doesn't get you anywhere. It's like crabs trying to crawl out of a bucket, pulling each other down, So you asked me, what trends do we think? Well, people are observably, we have more in common than we do not. Wherever you sit on the political divide, whatever your religious differences are, we humans all need the same things. And through groups like Metal, where we have deep friendships with men from completely different backgrounds, both on the political divide, someone who's religious that you wouldn't talk to, what it does is it really cements that connection. There are metal men in many cities, most cities here in the US and in Canada and many in Europe, Middle East, Dubai. And I can go to New York and make a call. We have an app called Metal Connect, and I can see who's in New York, and there's 10 metal guys. Some of them I may not know very well, but because we're all part of this organization, and we know we don't talk about politics or religion, we talk about everything else, we can sit and connect and be real friends. And so it's a really interesting phenomena. I was out at dinner the other day with some non-metal friends here in LA, and someone started talking about politics, and it brought the vibe, it brought the energy of the meal down to and I stood up in the end and I was like, listen, this is not my dinner party, so please forgive me for doing this, but for goodness sake, stop talking politics. And people were shocked. I'm like, no, we're just wasting time. I want to find out about how are your kids doing? What books have you read? Have you been on vacation? How are you doing? How's your dad? I want to find out about real things. And so I would love for there to be a trend of that, where we focus less on the desperation of the media pushing us constantly for, especially with an election coming up here in the US, to concentrate on life, the things that matter. I moved to the USA from the UK in the 80s. And one of the reasons I moved here was that the American experiment, the American dream, you're welcome to come here. You're welcome. And I'm a citizen, a very proud citizen, have been a long time. And so the fact that, we are a nation of immigrants, and I am one of them. And we all have this, we all share the same thing with allegiance to the flag, it's a beautiful thing that we have here, and it's worth remembering,
Could not agree with that more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, Stan, to close out that thought, Stan once told me that he believes the same, that what you just said. He said, if you can get past the religion and the political debates, you'll find that what connects people goes so much deeper, and you are much more connected and much more intertwined and have much more in common than you would ever dream or realize. And we see that a lot with our clients, people that are from a different background from us, a different socioeconomic background, different religion, different political beliefs. But once you really get to know someone and know their family well, it is really amazing and very heartwarming that it turns out we actually have a lot in common just as humans. And so I love that connection. And I love that Metal is really a group that's able to foster that connection amongst all of these men from very varied backgrounds.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes, we'll do a group photo where we're out on an event somewhere, and you look at it later and you go, we are like the United Nations of guys here. And you never, once you get to know people well, guys well, you don't even think about that. It's not even an issue. And right? It's only when you look at a photo, you go, oh, yeah, that's true.
Right. Yes, it's very interesting looking through all of the photos on your website and on social media. Right. Because it is such a diverse group. There's all these different countries, these different ages, which you touched on earlier, that there are so many different ages in there. And so it's definitely a very unique group that you guys have brought together. And I can see how there's a lot of growth that comes out of that. Certainly. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone who tuned in to listen with us today. This has been the Legacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. And our guest today was Metal CEO Will Henshaw. And to find out more about Metal, you can visit metal.men. And you can also check out the next Metal Masterclass and find out how to join the Brotherhood. Will, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for making time to join us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you both.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.